Hi, I'm Michael.
And I'm Rich. Welcome to the Odl Podcast.
Yes, welcome to the Odl Podcast. Rich, tell me, why did you decide to do the Odl Podcast?
Well, I just think people are full of stories and I wanted to hear them all. So this is why I want to do a podcast and get to know people, not just their ODL person, but also kind of their background story, what makes them tick, what makes them cool people. So usually you won't actually hear just me and Michael ramble on about our lives. You'll hear about another person, either a member or a leader or someone who's involved with the board or someone who's new to ODL. And it won't just be us. You get to hear about their stories and what their best events are and kind of their life and what they would like to do and, you know, different games as well. And hopefully every week.
How long have you been a member of ODL?
I was trying to think this the other day. I've lived in Manchester for 4 years, so probably about 3. Because it was I remember the first year being really quite miserable of just not knowing anyone. And I thought, well, and I did the whole usual things of looking for the other kind of social clubs of, you know, could I do rugby? And clearly not. Can't do football. You know, things like squash and tennis. I'm like, sounds wonderful, but I've got no hand-eye coordination. So couldn't do any of that. And I thought, okay, I'll give climbing a go. And went to bouldering, and it was agony, like absolute agony. But you know, 3 years later, here I am, and now lead walks and got hiking more and hosteling. So,
were you in ODL for a while first before you started going climbing then?
I think I joined the website and I didn't do anything.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I remember going to my first event, and it was bouldering in Manchester, and my very first event actually, I don't know whether I can count it as my first event. I sat outside in the car and watched everyone go in, and then didn't go in.
Oh no!
It's awful, I know. But
the funny thing is, that sounds tragic, but I know so many people have done that, myself included. My first climbing event was my first ODL climbing event. I got to the church in Gorton and sat in the car park, willing myself to go inside, and I sat in there. I think for 20 minutes. I think. Danny Valentine said he sat in the car for something like an hour before he first went into climbing, and he's Mr. Confident, and yet he was nervous. And then I went in. So I've just hijacked his story. I went into climbing, and I saw 3 people sat upstairs. I think it was Paul Tucker, Danny Valentine, and it was Simon, and they were all wearing glasses. And I'd been thinking earlier, because I wear glasses, I was thinking, can I wear glasses climbing? And rather than just say, hi, I'm Michael, nice to meet you all, like a normal human being, I went, oh, you are wearing glasses. Oh, that's good, because I was worried, can I wear glasses climbing? I wasn't sure. And I remember all 3 of them just staring at me, and I could tell they were probably thinking, what on earth is this guy? Like, what is it? And I was like, oh, just floundering in front of them, thinking, shut up.
But I was wearing glasses back then as well, and I didn't think about that at all. And in hindsight, maybe I should have done. Because bouldering in glasses isn't really very safe. I don't think anyway. At least I didn't find it very safe because I fell off everything. But
yeah, and I've scratched all my best glasses climbing.
Well, yeah, but I remember actually the first time I did go in, and I remember having to speak very slowly so that because Sean was the leader when I went in, and he was teaching me how to boulder. I've never been in so much agony at the end because he made me climb for like an hour and a half non-stop. Of course, I met everyone and got talking to everyone. But I was constantly climbing and trying to find out and work out what my kind of beginner's grade was. And I remember just going to, you know, the pub afterwards and trying to hold my pint. And everyone was saying, oh, it's going to be hard. You can't really pick it up. I was like, oh, yeah, sure, fine, yeah. Oh, my God. It was just awful.
After my first climbing event, I actually, in the break, I texted my mum and said, I'm really worried you might have to come and pick me up. Because I was finding it so difficult to lift my teacup to my mouth that I was thinking, how am I going to change gear in the car to drive home? And I nearly texted my manager to say I won't be in work tomorrow. And then obviously it eased off. To anyone listening who,
why does anyone do this?
If anyone's listening and they're thinking of going to a climbing event or they've not joined ODL and thinking about it and going to a climbing event, it's not as bad as it sounds. It's just that
I think
first climbing session.
I mean, when I lead hiking events, you know, you start off in a car park. So if you see someone sat in a car park, and usually the leader knows what you look like from your kind of profile photo. So I don't necessarily go up and knock on the window like some form of bit of a stalker, but you know, you can recognize and you generally wave as people walk, you know, come into the car park. So it's not quite the same because you immediately get out when you're having that conversation as you're getting ready. Whereas I think it is quite hard sometimes to go to your first event in a building where you've got to make that walk in. Where is everyone? Do I get changed first? But it's quite easy for most events, because you've got that information at the beginning, like, oh, someone will be in a t-shirt to welcome you. Send a message to the leader at the beginning. That helped me a lot more. The first time I hadn't told anyone I was coming, and then when I went, actually, Sean was there ready. So
the first one is really nerve-wracking. Like, really, you'll be turn up to an event, and like you say, if it's a hiking event, you might be sat in your car thinking that's obviously the group over there, and I'm nervous to walk over. Or if it's climbing or something like that, you're thinking, oh, they're just going to be upstairs and I'm going to walk in. It's always a bit any joining any club like that, and I've joined nearly every club. It's nerve-wracking and it's horrible. But as soon as you're there and you're chatting to people, and you don't do what I do and talk about glasses for 5 minutes first and scream at them, as soon as you through that bit, you've ripped the plaster off. And I remember, because my first climbing event, I remember Simon, who was leading, said to me, he said, just as I tied in and was about to climb, he said, are you scared of heights? And I went, I'm not sure. And he went, well, you're about to find out. And I went, I did the climbing. And then when I got to the top, I thought, I wouldn't want to fall off here, but I know how safe I am, and I know how safe everybody else is. So it's fine. But I just had the most fun. And within that first night of climbing, I felt so welcomed that one of them was talking about how they were leading an outdoor climbing event that weekend, and they invited me, and I was like, can I? And they were like, yeah, of course you can, come along. And that was it. I was all this group of men that I'd met, an hour earlier, that I didn't know any of their names or anything. Suddenly I was arranging to go climbing in the Peak District with them. And I was like, oh, well, this is great.
Outdoor climbing within a week.
Yeah.
It took me 2 years to even consider going outdoor climbing, because it's still, I am scared of heights, but I'm a lot better than I used to be. But outdoor climbing just feels a bit more like death. So
at one point on the climb, because it was my first time doing it, Simon said, I was climbing up, and I grabbed hold of this big mound of grass coming out of the side of the rock face, and he was screaming like, no, you can't use that, you can't use that, stop using that. And I was like pulling on the grass, thinking, but the grass is so easy. And he was like, and it came off obviously, and he was like, don't use the grass to climb, just use the rock. So yeah, it was very much a wide berth.
You're the type of person who kind of pushes yourself. I mean, there's tons of events where you have to push yourself and go outside your comfort zone, especially if you want to improve. But then equally, there's tons of events where you can be within your comfort zone, like a social, for example, or just a leisure walk, or a hostel weekend. There's no pressure to do anything at a hostel weekend. You could just sit around and read if you wanted to. So it's, you don't have to push yourself. But that type of event, if you want to start something new and to take up a new hobby, then you do have to push yourself a little bit.
So you've been with ODL 4 years now. So what's your role within ODL now?
I lead hikes mostly. Tend to be in the Peak District most of the time. Currently doing my mountain leaders training and hostel leader training. But generally, I just like going on events. I mean, I used to hike a lot when I was younger, and then didn't for a good few years, especially over university. I took up hiking again, sort of as I left university briefly. And then as I moved to Manchester, just didn't do anything. And then actually a friend I met through ODL and through a social, actually. It wasn't at camp, it wasn't at climbing, even though he's a climber. And he took me out walking, and I got back into the habit of it and learned how to navigate better and just love it. I mean, I love the challenge of coming up with different routes and finding places to go. I love it when people say, right, can you make me a route where I want to see something like a lake, I want to have a high point, it's something, some like limits. I have to come up with a route for them. I just love doing it. And then as a leader now, it's great because you get to talking to people. You get to show them the bits that you really like of the country, and show them kind of why you like being in the countryside. So every different walk you go on quite often has a different feel to it, which I like. What about you? I mean, what was your first event outside of climbing?
I think I did that climbing, then I did the outdoor climbing, and then I think about 2 weeks later I did I think it was called the Three Witches or something, and it was this Halloweeny kind of walk, and it was really good. It had everything, like you say. I don't think it had a lake, but I think it had well, I'd say it had a great height to climb, and then and then a huge beautiful view, but it was such a foggy day that we couldn't see anything at the top. And it was one of those, it actually fit the bill of being Halloween. It was so eerie because we got to the top, and it's really windy, and we tried to take a picture with the flag and everything, and it looked awful. And then when we were walking down the back down to like, you know, the other side, sort of walking all the way back down, we must have been where we were stood. We must have been at a kind of like windbreak because there was no wind. We'd gone from being like absolutely blasted, like you're in a club, to suddenly just this deathly still silence. And we were all knackered from the trail up, so no one was really talking. So it was just this really eerie quiet. And I thought this really fits the, you know, the event. But I loved it. It was really nice. I mean, like you say about, you know, going on all these different walks and stuff. When I was at university a few years earlier, I got invited on a walk in South Wales, somewhere called the Skirrid, and I was not prepared whatsoever for a walk. Like I was just wearing like my sort of like posh little coat and a pair of suede shoes, and I was ripped for it for years for being absolutely ill prepared to do a walk like that. Now with ODL, I've got all the gear possible. But yeah, I think it was something like that. And then it was the climbers' meal. So we obviously in Manchester we do the climbers' meal. I think it's every other month. Someone picks like a restaurant to go to, and we all go there and have a really nice dinner. And then we meet the usual North social at is it at Via or I don't know. Anyway, we go there afterwards for a few drinks and stuff. And that was really nice because I got to meet more people from OutdoorLads that weren't just, you know, climbers. And you know, I think I had a chat with like one of the founding members or something, which was really cool. And yeah, it's just I've just done such a mix. But yeah.
Well, that's it. I think for me, I thought of so many other things I was going to join and going to do, like, and I quite like that ODL had so many different things. So like when I went to my first hostel weekend, I was so scared of that, but I did push myself. That I went with someone I knew actually. I think it was Halloween actually, which is quite a big one to go to for your first one. And I hate fancy dress. So I don't know why I went, but I loved it. I lost my glasses over one night. I think it was Halloween dance party night. So I woke up and had to try and find that the next day, but it was just so welcoming, and the walk was great. And you know, I managed to talk to like 2 or 3 people and become quite close to them who I'd never met before. And we just went to the pub. So it was like half an hour walk there down the canal, sat in the pub, and I got to know someone, you know, and I still talk to them now. So if I see them at different events, I still say, you know, hello, catch up and bits. But no, hostel weekends are still my favorite events.
Yeah, so. my first hostel event was Skiddaw.
That was your first hostel?
Yeah, I know. That's quite an intense one. But it was a small, that's why I did it, because it's a smaller one, because it's a group of, I think, 15 maximum, I think, something like that.
If you don't know, for people listening, Skiddaw House is the highest UK hostel, I think.
I think so, yeah.
It's got no heating, apart from like 2 fires. There's some wardens, and usually ODL do it in winter time. It's like January when I went.
January when we went, yeah, and it's 5 miles from the nearest road.
Yeah,
so you have to park up at this car park, and then on the first night, on the first night, usual ODL standard OutdoorLads is that you do a buffet on the first night, and everyone has to bring something, and then whoever's hosting will usually, if it's a smaller event, whoever's hosting will create some sort of really delicious meal on the second night. So that's usually for like hostels and things like that. That's the way it's done. So for this, because everyone was obviously doing the buffet on the first night, as well as all your stuff you had for the weekend, including all your walking gear, you also had all your buffet food with it. So we had to travel 5 miles from the car park with our massive rucksacks in the snow up to your knees, up to this really gorgeous hostel, where, like you say, yeah, downstairs it's really warm and snuggly because there's the log burners on, and they're producing heat around everywhere. And then in the bedrooms you can see your breath in bed. It's so cold.
The thing I loved about Skiddaw is that I don't know about you, because you went a different year to me, so I don't know how yours was. But for us, the year I went, which was actually 2020, you know, because there's 2 rooms, there's a little sitting room, and there's the one big long table. And it's, you know, other hostel weekends have great atmospheres, but the special thing about Skiddaw and the small hostels is that you spend so much time next to each other. Even if you went with one particular person and you're sat opposite them at the table, you can't not get involved in all the other conversations going on. So, I mean, I've never quite been so strategic with my packing ever, but I managed to bring a board game called Carcassonne up there. And I loved it. It's my favorite board game. And it was just about 2 or 3 of us playing. And all of a sudden you got 10 people kind of stood around, and you know what, everyone's got an opinion about it. So everyone's chipping in and saying, oh, why don't you do this? And it's suddenly the atmosphere, you know, there's no barriers there. You quickly meet everyone, and it's,
yeah, there was no phone signal when we were there. Like I don't think we had a board game, but there was no phone signal. And if anything, I loved it. I felt like it was the early 90s, because no one was like no one was showing like TikTok videos. Not that it was TikTok back then, but no one was showing like, videos or, on their phones all the time. And so if there was someone maybe sat on their own, someone would just go over to them and just sit down and chat to them. There were like loads of like really nice books and stuff. And everyone was just sat in the lounge at one point, just chatting. I think we did play like some sort of like charades or something like that. Everyone was just having like a little game with that. And then there were a few sat in the kitchen, just sat together having a little laugh and stuff. And it was just so nice to get to know this group of guys who I joined OutdoorLads in the previous September. So I'd been there for about 4 months or so. So I knew some of the people that I was with, but I didn't know them that well. And it was just such a perfect trip to get to know them.
Was it wintry when you were there?
Yeah, it was so snowy, because when we did the walk the next day, I mean, it was a bit embarrassing for me because I'm a bit rubbish at uphill. What?
Did you take your suede shoes?
I didn't take my suede shoes, but I am really bad at uphill. Like, I know that sounds really weak, but I'm just so bad at going uphill, like really uphill. And Skiddaw is a proper trek. And I was just, at one point, one of the leaders, Tom, turned around and said, "Where's Michael? Is Michael all right?" And I was like, "I'm here. Why?" And he said, "Oh, it's just you've not spoken in 10 minutes. So I assumed you died or something." And I was like, no, I'm just out of breath. But when we finally got to the top, and I mean, finally, it's a gorgeous wall, but the majority of it is just steep uphill. And when we finally got to the top, it was so snowy. It was like sort of Everest scene of like just snow everywhere. Yeah. You could see the beautiful like blue like lagoons of the lakes below you and everything like that, and all these like little villages, and it was so sweet. And then we took the picture, and then when we were, because on that there's slanted like going back down, I think because the sun was on it and it was kind of like both, it was melting and then freezing again. It was too icy to walk down, so everyone just sat on their bums and just slid halfway back down. I nearly went off the side of the mountain, whatever. Yeah, I nearly went off the side. But other than that, yeah, it was just such a gorgeous walk. It was, honestly.
Photos I got from that, it's still my favorite event. But I don't know about you, but the next day, on the last day, so quite often on hostel weekends, you can do an extra walk. And we got back to the car, and then we were going to do Blencathra with a little bit of a scramble on the way up. And I was like, oh God, I haven't done 2 mountains on like consecutive days in years. And I was a bit worried. I didn't dare tell anyone, to be honest. But I went up. I'm so glad I did. I had to push myself, but the leader was pretty good. It was Rob who was leading that year. And he was, very patient with everyone, understanding that it's day 2 of mountain trekking. And, he was very patient with everyone, and everyone got up. And the views, I mean, there wasn't much view at the top because of the mist, but on the way up, the views were stunning. And it was just a really calm day with the sun shining through at times. And I've just never felt like, I've never been to a place where I've just felt so like, wow. And I was surrounded by people I was just really comfortable with. And it's just my favorite event I've ever done. And I'd love to do it again.
Yeah, there was a guy on like I say, on the way up, there was a guy who'd actually give me a lift he'd come up from Bristol, and he'd give me a lift from Bolton up to Skiddaw. And he was like, he came to the back and was walking with me, and I was like, just go on. If you think you can go better than I, just go on. He was like, no, this is my pace. This is my pace. And we just walked up together, and we just, it's a good like it's not like a 5-6 hour walk or something. And we just like chatted the entire, there wasn't even like a drop in the conversation. We chatted the entire way about absolutely everything. And I thought, this is so perfect because, there's so many different like groups and things you can join. And, I've done the gay choir thing, I've joined quite a few different groups and things like that. And they've all got that niche. It's all, that community feeling. And this is just one of them where you just meet someone and you're on a walk with them. And the next thing, their life story, because you've been with them for like 6 hours walking up a mountain.
It's so non-judgmental, at least in my experience, non-judgmental. I've been able to talk about like my mental health, my younger life, and me almost being a priest once in the past. And I mean, accidentally, I don't necessarily go out thinking I'm going to tell people my life story, but it just sort of happens because you end up just feeling so comfortable, and people are quite good at conversations, and leaders are particularly quite good at conversations. And I only found this out when I became a walk leader, is that it's one of the kind of requirements is that you can make people feel comfortable, essentially, and you can have these conversations. Because I used to walk around going, God, these people are good at getting like information out of me. And it was just like, and now it's me doing it to other people. But my other favorite event, again, it's a hostel though, is and again, I don't know why this is one of my favorites, given that I hate dressing up, but the Murder Mystery Hostel still sticks in my mind as being one of the best things I've ever done. Because not only am I a rubbish actor, I just had such a good laugh with that one. It was just so unique and so different. And I can't remember exactly. I think it was Andy who led it. Andy and Damo, I think, who led it, and it was just amazing. Yeah. And I just thought, the amount of effort they put into getting that done, and all the food was amazing. The company was amazing. Everyone got into their roles. I have no idea who killed who, because I got so carried away with my own storyline that I just lost track of trying to find out the murderer. But it was just such a nice weekend.
See, this is what I like, because it's such a good mix of putting things together that maybe you wouldn't have thought of. So, like, we've done a hostel weekend where we've played board games, or like you say, that hostel weekend there was murder mystery. So if you wanted to combine two passions, so you really liked maybe like Dungeons and Dragons or something like that, and you suggested it to someone, would there be a group that would want to come together and do like hostel weekend where we also played Dungeons and Dragons? You could do that. You could make a suggestion and that sort of thing could happen.
I've got a game for you now. Are you ready?
Okay.
So
come on.
So this game is Are You the Michael Ammett Who? So
am I the Michael what?
Are you the Michael Ammett Who? So, for example,
sorry, Rich. Sorry, I just didn't quite get my surname then. Am I the Michael what?
I do really say Ammett. Am
I the Michael Ammett?
Yeah, that's how I've always said it.
It's not Ammett. It's Ammett. Although saying that, there is the member Laurie, who I've named Laurie for the past 3 years.
You've never corrected me since.
What, on Ammett?
Ammett sounds too much like it's two different words.
It's funny, surname's Ammett, and yet at school I never got called Michael Gamer. I mean, I got called a lot of things, but I never got called that. And to this day, I think, what a wasted joke. Sorry, go on. What's your game?
Well, okay, this is the game of Are you the Michael Ammett Who? So, for example, are you the Michael Ammett who loves vegan boys?
Yes, I am.
Do you know what I'm referencing here?
You're referencing a picture on my Facebook saying I love vegan boys. It was someone at my workplace who was vegan, and I knew he was vegan because he told me within 5 seconds of meeting him that he was vegan. And he bought me a little badge that says I love vegan boys on it.
That is.
I love all boys.
Well, are you the Michael Ammett who successfully procured and delivered campaigns with budgets for £2.5 million for H&M and Adidas?
No.
That's a shame, because that person's quite hot.
There is a Michael Ammett that lives in, I think, Birmingham, and he once messaged me and asked me to change my password on LinkedIn because he was getting my notifications. And I was like, that's not how that works. Go away. Carry on.
Are you the Michael Ammett who accepts that he is a stalker?
I am indeed, and I have sung a song to that effect, and I'm happy to post a link at any point.
Should you want to listen to it? Now, for me to show you this song, I've got to share my screen and share my audio.
I'm hiding in the trees. I'm a stalker. Whoops, I copied all your keys. Restraining orders, time in jail. These two things are bound to fail. I will always find a way. A love that is here to stay. The thought of you excites me, thrills me, and delights me.
It goes on for like another 2 minutes, but it is an amazing song. So, I mean, all right, fine. Are you the
sing as well? I've heard your singing voice.
Yeah, but I'm not a comedian one. I'm like a choir boy.
It was such a fun thing to do. I walked out on stage, my mouth was completely dry, and I thought, I can't do it. And then the piano started, and I was like, I can do it. So I did it.
Yeah, I've got like a number of friends who I've like studied music with when I was younger. One of them's in like a band that's quite big and played at Glastonbury and things. I'm just the choir boy who's like the classically trained. It's not exciting. I can sing, but I can't do anything poppy. Anyway,
you're a head of department in maths.
Yeah, it says it all, doesn't it?
I haven't prepared Are You the Richard Laverick Who? So this is
I'm a genius at this, and I've got more. So are you the Michael Ammett who makes vibrant videos and motion graphics about incredible things?
Yes, that's my LinkedIn bio. Thanks.
It is. I'm surprised you remembered exactly like that. Are you the Michael Ammett who made...
I wrote it! Well, sorry, go on.
Well, are you the Michael Ammett who made music for the BBC TV series Mop and Smith in 1985?
No, that's my dad.
Oh, if it was, apparently it's quite good, but I couldn't find any of the music to listen to.
He wrote it and presented it, and he was a presenter on that. He had another show called Forget Me Not Farm, and then he was a presenter.
Is actually your dad?
Yeah, and then he was a presenter on Play School as well, which was like the kind of Blue Peter back in the day.
Yeah, are you serious here?
Yeah, I always make a joke, which he told me off for, which is I make a joke about him and say, oh yeah, my dad was a children's presenter in the 80s. His court case is next week, which is a terrible joke to make.
I did not know this was going to work out like this. I'm quite excited now because Wow.
No, don't be, because I think he did it for about 4 or 5 years, and then it just, like, I mean,
I thought I was being funny here. Now I found like a real life connection. I'm like, oh, well, I don't know if this is not funny anymore, but well, anyway.
no, and I told some friends the other day why I was named after him, and they laughed at me and said, "Oh, like that's a thing." And I think that is a thing. So the reason I'm called Michael, they were going to call me Joseph, and then I was born. My birthday's August 31st, which is my dad's birthday, and I was born on his birthday. And so I was telling a group of friends this, and I said, and so they called me Michael, and they were like, "Oh, what? Yes." So they called me Michael, so that's why I'm Michael.
Are you the Michael Amat who had a divorce suit filed against him in the Fresno County in 2015?
No, who's that?
I don't know, but it's some Mel Amat did not like this guy, so it's something to do with records. Who knows? Are you the Michael Amat who fought the flu for Salford in September 2017?
Yeah, I did indeed, by getting my flu jab, which you should all get, as well as your corona jab. Yes.
And my last one confuses me a little bit. Anyway, are you the Michael Amat who was a reporter for the Adamsdown and Splot? What the hell is the Splot Squad?
So my university was in Cardiff, so you got given different areas. So if it was like Manchester or something, then you'd be like, maybe you'd get like Disbury and Fallowfield, and then somebody else would get given like Altrincham and Sale, and you'd get these little patches, and you'd have to like go to the pubs and talk to people there, and be a proper like old school journalist and stuff. And our patches in Cardiff were Adamsdown and an area called Splot, which does actually exist. It's called Splot. It's it's up and coming, but it is a bit rough area, and it gets a mention in Torchwood and gets called Splo, which I don't think I've ever heard anyone call it that, but it is SPLOTT. Yeah.
Well, I mean that's all my questions. That's the Michael Amat who I wanted to know. Amat, sorry.
Michael what? Michael what?
Michael Amat. Amat, hi, I'm Michael Amat.
Well, that was a nice game.
Yeah, I thought it was quite good. I was surprised how much came up when I Googled you. So, Michael, what is an event you would never forget?
Oh, well, apart from seeing many, many harrowing things at big spring camps of the years gone by, no, the event that I'll never, ever forget will be the sailing trip that me and I'm not going to name people because I'm going to forget everyone's names, but from Manchester, it was me and Danny Ballantyne went on in 2018. It was absolutely incredible. So we spent 6 days, I think, on this. They're called the Ocean Youth Trust, and they usually take out like schools with like disadvantaged kids. And it's a boat called the Prolific. This like sailing yacht. I can't remember any of the terminology from doing it.
It's a boat, isn't it? Not a yacht.
Yeah, it's a boat. Anyway, so we went on this. We sailed overnight, and the second I remember sitting in like the cabin talking about where we were going to go, and the boat was just sat in the harbour gently swaying, and I thought, I'm going to be sick, and I thought, we've not even set off yet. And then as soon as we set off, I went downstairs and was talking to one of like the guys who works on the boat who was making the dinner, and I was talking to him, and he was just chatting along to me, and he was quite good looking, and I was trying to sort of flirt with him, and as I was talking with him, I was thinking, I'm going to throw up. And I said to him, I said, I'm really enjoying this conversation, but I'm going to have to pop upstairs. I think I'm going to throw up. And he was like, go. So I went upstairs. So then they said to everyone, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go down to the sleeping quarters, and get your bed set up. They did it in like groups of 4, I think. And they said, keep coming up as much time as you need to, because you're going to feel sick going down there. Because when it's like, when you're feeling the boat moving, you can look at the horizon and everything. It's a lot better. But when you're actually, you're just feeling it. It's awful. So they said, like, just keep coming up as much as you need. And one person came up and he was literally green. Like when someone says that someone looked a bit green, he was green, like he looked like the Grinch. And then Danny spent the first 2 days, I think, just chucking up like he didn't, or the first day and a half at least. He was ill. Like that was the first night was just a night of hearing people throw up.
I love the idea of this, but in reality, I just would not survive. I'd just be And I guess,
no, you would. So we got put on these like 4-hour shifts, I think it was. So they said to my group, because they split us into groups of 6, I think, and they said to us like, right, go to bed, my group, and then while this group carry on working. So we went down, and I finally got to sleep, and then I got woken up at 1 a.m, being told, "Well, now it's your watch. You've got to go out and like sit on the deck and watch. Check they look out for things like crab pots, like any other boats and things like that. So you just which at night is a lot harder to do. So they took our group out to go and so at 1 a.m, someone woke me up, And as I walked up the stairs to go, I felt like I was going to die. I thought, why am I here? What am I doing? Why am I not at home? This is the worst event ever. Walking up the stairs, and someone from the group, I think it was Danny or something, who was going back down to bed, just tapped me on the shoulder and said, seriously, when you get out there, it's worth it. And I walked out onto the deck. It was a little bit, it was summer, so it was a bit like cool in the air. Walked out thinking, this isn't worth it. I can hear the sea. This is rubbish. And then someone tapped me and just pointed up, and I looked up, and honestly, the stars were gorgeous. Like, you just, because you're so far away from light.
Yeah.
Just, like, when that scene in Titanic, when it's not a good parallel, that scene in Titanic when they show the stars and you can see like the Milky Way and everything, it's gorgeous. It is like that because the light pollution is such a thing. And when you see these stars, I think we could see the Milky Way, I could see Mars on the horizon, you know, I could see Doctor Who's TARDIS on the beach. It was so beautiful. And just, there was just so many things through that week. So I won't ramble on because I could do a whole episode on this, but like there was so many beautiful things. Like at one point we saw dolphins, like right next to the boat. We saw, you know, it was one of the most amazing events I've ever been on in my life.
I'm well jealous. It hasn't come up again. It's one of those once in a lifetime opportunities, isn't it?
No, they've done it. They did it the year after, and I think they probably will in the future, like post-COVID. Like they probably will do it again in the future. So I definitely book on it. Like